this is like, I guess, part of the mission of the app is to fight against this. Is I think it's not so much my family. Like my family, alhamdulillah, had a big emphasis on you know, learning and practicing Islam, but it's more of like a societal issue or cultural issue. I feel like in the West, Muslims, especially like first, second generations in the West, there's like this overemphasis, I'd say, on the schooling, on education, um, not Islamic education. So what I mean by that is like the pressure to become like the classic like doctor, lawyer, engineer.
Assalamu alaikum. Yasser, how are you?
Wa alaikum salam. Alhamdulillah, how are you, Tariq?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Recently, I came across on this group chat that I'm in with other Quran apps, this app of yours that you're making called Yawm. And I just wanted to hear more about it because when I saw it first, I saw that it was literally for busy people who might not be comfortable reading with the Quran daily. And it allowed you to read one verse at a time. It really resonated with me. And so, yeah, I wanted to find out more from you. What inspired you to make this?
Absolutely. Well, I'm so happy to hear, alhamdulillah, that resonated with you and that the mission came across. I think the number one thing for me that inspired it was just having the problem myself, just being a busy student, busy professional. A lot of times I felt like I was neglecting the Quran in terms of like reading it on a habitual basis. And like I only found myself in Ramadan actually doing it much more than the rest of the year, which at a certain point kind of bothered me because I was like, man, I can have like a 300-day, 400-day Duolingo streak. I can come into this app for 1 to 2 minutes every day, but I can't do that for the Quran. Like I just refuse to believe that's true. I just feel like the medium is not there, and so that's kind of what inspired it, honestly. Just the need for it.
What's your background? So, like, where are you from? And how was your childhood upbringing in terms of Quran reading or going to the masjid?
Yeah, so my parents are both from Syria. I myself was born in the States though, and so that kind of like that didn't obviously help in terms of being in that environment and stuff. Like at home, there is a an emphasis on the Quran and obviously Salah and all the things, and then we go to the masjid, of course. And then the biggest thing was definitely Sunday school. So that's why how I like obviously learned how to read the Quran, learned Arabic, reading and writing Arabic. As you know, colloquial Arabic, like Syrian dialect, for instance. I mean, it's not that far away from Fusha, but it's decently far away. It's not like if you know Syrian dialect or know how to speak it, you're automatically going to be great at reading the Quran. So it's something I still found myself struggle with, and still I'm in Quran class to this day, Tajweed class, Arabic class, Fasah class, and I still
MashaAllah.
struggle with it. It's just I just come to accept it as an ongoing process. And the idea was like as long as I can just get better at it every week, every day, just a tiny bit. I mean, it's in the right direction. I don't have to become super great at it all of a sudden overnight. And that's kind of like the type of idea that inspired this app too, right? Like I didn't
Mhm.
need to, I knew I wasn't gonna like with my busy schedule in terms of work and stuff, I knew I wasn't gonna be able to like change my skills overnight. So I needed to create something sustainable, create a habit that's sustainable.
Okay, fine. So if we go back, can you remember how old were you when you were able to read the Quran comfortably?
I
If
might
you
give
remember.
a comfortably, I feel like is a tough one to define. I feel like I was able to start reading the Arabic early on, like in terms of what they taught in Arabic school or Quran Islamic school. So maybe like the normal like 7, 8 years old, I was like
Mhm.
able to read. Obviously, not very well, and then co- come like fast forward to this day, like I graduated quote unquote from Islamic school in like when I was like 14, and then I took like a big gap, right, in terms of like investment into habitually reading the Quran and investment into my Arabic skills, reading and writing. And then um I resumed. I told myself, I know in college, alhamdulillah, I was like dual majoring in engineering and it was a very busy time. And there's no excuse. It's not an excuse. I don't think it is, but I was in the back of my mind, I had the guilt that's like, man, I'm really neglecting something that like is more valuable than all this engineering, all this stuff. And so I didn't really make like an explicit promise myself, but I knew inshallah when the time opened up and I started making my own money and stuff like that, inshallah I'd be able to go back and invest in what matters, which is my Islamic education.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what I did. Alhamdulillah. My first year in my full-time job, I got a tutor in Lebanon and been with them ever since. Alhamdulillah.
And so, how old were you there at that point?
Yeah, I was like 22, 23 when I started. And I think
Okay.
that's when I really started to be like a lot more
Mm.
comfortable, really reading the Quran. I think the word comfortable for me, again, it was like a loose term because um, I didn't really learn tajweed super well growing up. So it was like I was able
Yeah.
to read the Quran, if you will, but reading it, it felt like it was just reading it, not with the like how it's supposed to be read. And so now I feel like my definition of how I'm supposed to read it has changed quite a bit. It's now like obviously, with tajweed is the more correct version. And so alhamdulillah, I feel comfortable with those rules now.
Yeah, it's similar over here. It's more, well, when I was younger, it was more pushed to just learn the Quran in terms of complete it. It was seen more as like a chore to go to the Quran classes. And
Hmm.
a lot of my friends, I think, I could probably speak for a lot of people, especially at my age level, they didn't enjoy going to Quran classes. You'd even get hit. It just wasn't a comfortable place to be in.
Yeah.
What happened, do you think, in that gap between 14 and 22, where maybe you didn't seem it was, I don't know, like what happened in that gap?
Yeah, I think this is like I guess part of the mission of the app is to fight against this. I think it's not so much my family. Like my family, alhamdulillah, had a big emphasis on you know, learning and practicing Islam, but it's more of like a societal issue or cultural issue. I feel like in the West, Muslims, especially like first, second generations in the West, there's like this overemphasis, I'd say, on the schooling, on education, not Islamic education. So what I mean by that is like the pressure to become like the classic like doctor, lawyer, engineer. There's
Hmm.
all this like emphasis on this and prioritization on that over like learning how to read the Quran well, learning how to read and write Arabic well and stuff like that. I found this to be like the case with me, my friends, and everyone in my community. And I've noticed like coming here to Seattle and speaking to other Muslims here is like it's not like a random thing. It's like people, it's a bias sampling, right? Like you get people, immigrants that come here, they got a mission to raise their kids in the West and
Yeah.
create successful students and successful careers. And yeah, what you get is the byproduct of that is like sometimes a misprioritization. And so my thing is like, okay, let's meet that type of culture halfway. We're not saying like, completely drop everything and you have to dedicate an hour every day of your busy schedule. Like obviously that's ideal. But let's meet you halfway. Just give me 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes to read the Quran because I know, we all know that the average Muslim in America or UK or something, 5 minutes is itself is a struggle. Can you give me that? That's all I ask.
Yeah, I mean, now you have to struggle for 3 seconds if you're on TikTok. So
Yeah, yeah.
even 5 minutes is pushing it.
Absolutely. I said 5 minutes, and even in the back of my mind, you're right. I was
Yeah.
like, man, I might be overdoing it. Um, so
Mm.
yeah,
Can you tell me more about your team? Like, how did you form the people you're working with?
yeah. Alhamdulillah, being in Seattle, being in like a tech hub, I've had the pleasure of meeting like-minded Muslims, people with similar backgrounds, similar struggles, and similar career and space, and people who understand the tech and again the problem space. So it was actually not that difficult. Like some of my friends, that I met, like from different skill sets, like some software engineers, some designers, some working in content curriculum development, stuff like that, who've gone to like Qalam Institute. They all existed around me. I just needed to like pull together their skill sets together. And again, they understood the problem space is actually the number one thing I was looking for is like, does this issue resonate with you? Like, do you see it in yourself? Do you see it in other
Mhm.
people? And do you want to solve it? And you find that a lot of people definitely do see this problem.
Yeah, it's a global phenomenon, I think.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
it's yeah, people probably listen to more music than Quran easily.
Easily. No, no question.
It's really interesting. So, do you think it's the environment that you're in and the people that you met? Did that influence your decision to make this?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know so much if it was so much seeing the problem around me that actually triggered it. It was actually more so like looking at myself,
Okay.
um like inward. And then
Mm.
like obviously following that I was like, well, is this just a me problem or let me look at the outside and start, analyzing. I think a lot of times sometimes that self-reflection first is really important, because if it was the reverse, it's kind of troublesome, right? Like if I was out there judging people that like, hey, y'all are not reading the Quran every day, and then meanwhile I wasn't either. I mean, that just makes me a hypocrite, right? So it started with a lot of self-reflection, and I knew, like, using my skills in software engineering and working in product and stuff like that, I always knew I wanted to like contribute somewhere else besides like big tech, if you will, and use those skills and to help out something that's like more closer to the heart. And so that's kind of what led it.
We spoke about it before, but it was back in 2015, and it was the same feeling I had, that it was, I'm not reading enough Quran, and I was trying to think it over, like, why am I not, when there's so many other apps out there that I would spend more time on than the Quran. And then I think around the same time, then can't remember any of the names, but there were other apps that were like habit forming apps, like
Yeah.
around that time. And I took inspiration from that, and I thought, what if we could do something similar where it's just one verse at a time? And alhamdulillah, that helped me. Even if it was literally one verse a day, at least that's one verse that that you would have missed otherwise. Having it in your phone all the time, giving you reminders, that was great as well. But so now, even though I made that app, and I've made other Quran apps as well, I'm still not a daily Quran reader, which is sad. The problem hasn't been solved, I think.
Yes.
People drop off of, like, the current solutions out there. People are still dropping off. Like, how can you avoid that?
Yeah, I mean, you're right on the money, and I mean, it just speaks to like your experience in the space. Uh, I've come to the similar conclusion or observation. I actually genuinely think that this problem is so widespread that there's never gonna be like a one app to solve it all type of thing. I think it's
Hmm.
the way I imagine it is it's gonna be like different apps in different that like have different styles, different value propositions. They're gonna come eat like bit by bit at this
Hmm.
demographic until like we've reduced the problem. Never gonna solve it obviously completely, but we're gonna, inshallah, the idea is that we just mitigate it. And like I said, like it's gonna be different apps, gonna be different styles of learning, different styles of engagement that resonate with different people. And I think that's like the bittersweet conclusion I came to through my user interviews is like, yeah, there's no ones, again, there's no like ones, what's the
One size fits all.
one size, thank you. Yeah, one size fits all solution for this. Like, I found that some people preferred reading like 4 words every page. Like, they had the attention span to only read like 4 or 5 words a page in terms of like content, and others wanted to see like blocks and paragraphs, explanations of tafsir. When we were experimenting with some like Duolingo style lessons for like that are tafsir related. That's what I was referring to. Sorry, for context, is like some people really liked the vocab part, but some people didn't, and they already knew the vocab and they wanted to focus more on the memorization part of the daily engagement. Or some people didn't feel like the just vocab is sufficient. They wanted to overextend into grammar. And so I think like one of the things that causes this is that like with all these different demographics, they share the same end problem, is that they don't come in and read or engage. I like to use the word engage with the Quran every day, because maybe you're not just reading, maybe you're memorizing, maybe you're learning.
Hmm.
They all have that problem, but they're all at very different skill levels. You'll find a very large spectrum of skill level and interest in different fields. Like some people are more interested in memorization, some people are more interested in vocabulary, some people are just interested in reading. Some people are more interested in recitation. And so like that, the beautiful thing about that is that like now there's really good apps for each of those spaces, right? You
Yeah.
have a tertil for
Hmm.
recitation. You have a lot of good apps for memorization. Vocab, you have like Quranic and so on, so Quranul, so on and so forth. So again, bits and pieces at this problem, but I don't think we'll ever totally solve it.
So that's really interesting that you've interviewed people to get feedback. Is that before you started developing? Or
Absolutely.
during?
So yes and no, like especially in the age of AI, I tried like to see or make use of the new coding tools. And one thing, like besides just development itself, one thing I find that's really helpful at is like rapid prototyping. So
Mm.
what I would do is I would just I'd sit down, lock myself in my room for a week and just
Yeah.
build out an entire prototype of an app. Like the code is going to be thrown away. I knew it, but let me build something that I'm like, okay, let me go put this in someone's hand and let me go see how they react and what they like and what they don't like. And I'll just go from there. And that's exactly what I did. Like I still have the code for it. I hold it close to my heart. The first
Yeah.
prototype of Yawm, it's much different, obviously, than it is now, but I love seeing how some of the same goals and same
Mhm.
concepts kind of have evolved and translated themselves to this day in a more productionized fashion with a lot of feedback, right? And so those user interviews were really, really insightful, really, really helped shape where Yawm is today. And I'd say Yawm was a very much community driven project, which I'm proud of.
Can you go into more detail about how you did that, how you contacted the community members? If, yeah, as much detail as you can go into about that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I think it started off with just like, hey, friends and family, I'll send you a screen recording, or actually at first I was like, screen recording, this isn't really working. Like just showing
Mm.
people, I need people to come like use it, interact with this. So I'd go to the masjid, I'd keep a build of it on my phone. I'd hand it over to people and I'd see how they react. I'd sit down with them. I'd even at if we had like a guy's barbecue night, I'd go
Yeah.
around and I'd be like, hey, can you try this out? Then I was like, you know what? I need to branch out. I need to get more different demographics. I'd set up Zoom calls or FaceTimes where I can share my screen and let them take over my screen so they can actually use it. And I just tried to find as many people as I could in different demographics to try it out. And it's actually really interesting. Like, you'll find different demographics react very differently to certain feature sets. For instance, like my biggest conclusions was we had this idea of a reflection feature, a journal reflection feature, where after you did your daily reading, you can
Mhm.
come in and do a reflection, or sorry, read a reflection and or journal about your reflections as of what you read. And so the idea was like, as you did your daily reading, now you have like a running journal as you go through your Quranic journey that you can
Okay.
go through. And we would cater these, reflection prompts to be like relatable and tied to the verses and stuff like that. And we're still working on that, alhamdulillah. But I found that feature, there was like a very strong gender divide on that feature, which I wasn't expecting. It's like uh, for the women audience, it's like I'd say like 70%, 80% wanted it, 20%, 30% no. And it was the complete opposite with the male audience.
Mm.
It was very insightful for me because it was like, man, like there's no really no, like there are some features, like you said, kind of like there's some features where we can't we might need to like kind of like tweak it a bit to try to
Yeah.
cater towards the other audience because we're missing out on like 50%. But yeah, I think you mentioned the use of AI to tweak it and stuff. So I think that's one of our big challenges right now is we really want to use AI. Not how do I say this? We don't want to use AI for the sake of using AI in Yom, but there are so many cool ways to use it. It's just
Mhm.
we got to be very careful about how and the risk behind it. So, I've been consulting my local imam, who's pretty well versed in AI, alhamdulillah, which is nice. Just trying to find safe ways to incorporate it in a way that's beneficial. And I found that uh, it's a challenge. That's basically all I can say. It's not easy.
What's the AI that you use at the moment in there?
The LLM provider,
Yeah, so when you search, which LLM provider do you use?
we use Gemini.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
I found that really useful. It's quite good. You're just searching and it's giving you related ayahs, but you're not explicitly saying anything.
Yes, yeah. So that's our only current integration of AI in the future, in the product, which we found like this is like the trick, right? Is like finding ways to leverage it without actually like trying to do like your own generation. So the way we like to think about it is like there's two approaches to using the AI. There's generative approach and there's an
Mhm.
extractive approach. And we're avoiding the generative approach. We don't want to surface anything that the AI actually generates. We want
Okay.
it to be an extractive approach. So it goes and extracts from the real data, from the ayat themselves, from the tafsir itself, real data, and just quotes it or uses it yourself. So we're not trying to claim anything. We're not trying to teach anything with
Yeah.
it. We're just extracting.
How does the search work? Is that RAG based or is it just
The Right now we're not using RAG for the verse feature, but we are using a like a checksum, if you will, to try to
okay?
validate the results and filter out faulty ones. And for the most part, it's been pretty good. At the end of the day, what you're seeing at the
Mm.
end is going to be a real verse that you can click into with the translation.
Yeah.
So if it is a little off base thematically from the
Mhm.
thematic search, you can always just yourself implicitly or consciously just ignore it.
Right. Yeah. So where else did you use AI in the app? Or is
Uh,
it mainly
Not
for building?
mainly for building right now, but there is no, besides the thematic or emotion based search for verses. There's nothing yet.
Okay. And what about the graphics or the app icon? Did you use AI for that?
Oh yeah, assets definitely image generation. It's a combination.
Okay.
Actually, that's not true. I just realized the I I use AI so much that I'm starting to forget what I
Yes.
did and what I didn't use for. The app icon was actually, we hired a Muslim designer for that. So that's actually, I would say, like the one of the, I always told myself, like, if everything fails about this, which in this space, like the chances of failing are much higher than it succeeding.
Oh yeah.
I'm okay with that. Like I don't really care, because one nice byproduct of this journey was I was able to employ Muslims. So creating jobs for Muslims, like genuinely, like these jobs were created, so to speak, out of thin air, right? Like this, we didn't have to exist as a company, but subhanAllah, we did, and now we employed like 4 or 5 Muslims, and that's something we can be proud of. And we helped feed back in that money into the Muslim ummah and the Muslim community and economy, and that's something we can be proud of. So yeah, the icon itself, we paid a Muslim designer for. The assets of the app, actually, so far, maybe only like one thing was generated by AI, surprisingly. Yeah, that
Mm.
honestly, just thinking back, surprises me as well. I do a lot of prototyping with the image
Yeah.
assets and stuff with AI. That's probably why I'm a little like shaky on my answer,
Mm.
but in the production version, there's not that much.
Yeah, I think the design is great, mashallah. And even so you've got that learn tab in the app. The graphic behind that is so cool. I'm so excited
Oh,
to see what's going to be there.
yeah, Jazakallah. Uh, that one, yeah, we're TBD on that one.
Okay.
So we're working to make that learn a reality.
Hmm.
The graphics and stuff behind it, we had some really cool ideas behind that. Like, so one thing we wanted to do is, and eventually want to do, inshallah, is like, there's the idea of like getting a streak,
Yeah.
and like that's great. Like, I think streak works. Obviously, it's been validated as a concept, but we wanted to do something beyond that, where like you not only
Hmm.
like get a streak, but you also like build your Islamic empire. So
Okay.
that's probably what you see behind the Learn tab, is like you go through the Islamic world essentially, and we take you, like, the units of the lessons are like different eras or in different areas. So you have
Mashallah.
like Andalus, you have the Levant, you have the Hind region, you have all these different Islamic empires through time, um and it kind of just like takes you through, and it visually takes you through the major landmarks in each one. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was we're excited for that, inshallah. Yeah, we have
I'm
a lot of cool
excited.
ideas behind that.
Yeah. That will truly make it different. So now I really want you to succeed, inshallah.
Thank you.
How are you going to make sure you succeed?
Yeah, I hate to answer this with like a deeper
Yeah.
answer, but it really is what I think. There's one thing my dad always told me that always resonated with me, is that, like, he always told me in school, because he'd always see me stressing out and stuff. He's like, just always, like, it's a very simple thing, honestly. Is like, always just try your best, trust in Allah, and then like you live with the result, and that's it. And that's kind of the mindset I had here, because sometimes I get stressed out because of it, but all I know is that, like, all I can confidently say is like I'm giving it my all. And so if I'm giving it my all, making dua, I'm trusting in Allah, and whatever happens, happen. I trust in the result. And again, like I told you, like I've come to terms with myself. Like, if all fails, I don't want anything to fail,
Yeah.
inshallah. But if all fails, like, there's a lot I can take away from this. And I met a lot of cool people, you
Mhm.
included, and it's on to the next. It is what it is. And so, but inshallah, like, to answer your question, like, more on like a technical or a product front, I think the way I really think that we can succeed is, one, like, I think that our team is composed of people, again, who understand the problem, who live the problem. And
Mhm.
so that's not something that, like, I think is light. I think that the fact that we live the reality, we can speak to our customer a lot better, and we can like resonate with them, and frame things, and phrase things and market things in a way that they understand. So I think like one thing, for instance, like, you know, there's one thing that always bothered me, and it was like, you know, in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, I always was annoyed that I couldn't feel the salah. I couldn't feel the Quran. I wasn't crying, like just to
Mhm.
put it blankly.
Yeah.
I couldn't cry the way the people in the front row were crying. And so I'm like, why, what it is so, for lack of a better term, like what's wrong with me? What am I lacking where I can't feel this level of emotion, a level of connection with the Quran, a connection with my deen? And I feel like I'm not the only one who feels that. And you're talking to people, you know, you realize the same. These are like real things that we live in our reality every year in Ramadan. There's other things that we resonate with, like, you know, when we're in any salah, Salat al-Jama'ah, listening to the Imam recite Quran. How often can you tell me exactly what they were reciting, what they were talking about?
Did you figure that out? Like, why do they cry?
Why do they cry?
Yeah, like how do they get that connection?
That, to me, like that's my mystery. That's what I wanna eventually get to. That's what I'm working towards, if it, inshallah. So I knew I can't just, again, like I told you earlier, like overnight I'm not gonna get there. It seems like a lifelong commitment, a
Yeah.
lifelong journey to get there. And like my hope again is to put my head down, do my best, and have to tawakkul. You know, if it happens, it happens, and inshallah I can get there. This app is my hope to build that habit and that, like,
Mhm.
the trajectory for myself, and inshallah for others. And you know what, honestly, like one thing that's, again, like I told you, if all things fail, I'm happy with some of the stuff, is like in this past 6 months, 7 months of working on it, you know, I've seen people, and people have told me, you know, they've been using my app, and that I don't think were using it before, or having a habit reading the Quran before. And so to me, I'm like, well, even if I turned like 2 or 3 people into somewhat habitual readers, maybe
Mhm.
that's a habit that lasts beyond the lifespan of the app. You know, that's just inshallah, and that's just invaluable to me, right? Like as you can imagine, that in and of itself made it worth it.
You've made me read a few verses. Even yesterday while driving home, I gave the app to my son. I was just telling him about this cool app. We were thinking is there's not many apps that are catered for kids
Mhm,
for reading the Quran. He has enjoyed the apps I've made in the past. They have been a bit more gamified. So, for example, Quranal, he likes playing
mhm.
that here and there. And then this app, I thought he would like. Yeah, like it's the design is really cool. It's refreshing. And then, yeah, I was surprised he managed to figure it out, the UX, like reading, swiping up. I guess that's everyone knows how to swipe up now.
Right, yeah.
I think it has the potential to cater to a lot more audiences, even the younger generation.
Yes, absolutely. I think kids is actually another sphere we kind of want to break into, because we just wanted to make the UX kind of like, we felt like one of the challenges in of current Quran apps was that there is like this unnecessary mental wall or friction or like overwhelmingness about them. So like when I open up a Quran app, for instance, your average Quran app, I always felt pretty overwhelmed because, again, I'm not the strongest at Arabic. And when I see the default view for like 90% of Quran apps are like that Mus'haf view, that Mus'haf page view, which is obviously great, but like on a small screen, it's actually it's very intimidating a lot of times. And, you know, there's a lack of like translation for word by word and stuff like that, or translation is hard to toggle. I found that with a lot of apps, it's actually really hard to configure your reader to your liking and what you're comfortable with. And so like those are the types of things where like, okay, we're gonna solve these problems first. We're gonna make the native Mus'haf experience smooth, easy, and like easy to configure to your liking and what you're doing. And I find myself also like enjoying that aspect of it. I feel like when I open up the app, when I only see like a single ayah on a screen, or the word by word translation, I feel a lot more relaxed. I don't feel like it's as intimidated by the experience. And again, it kind of like lends itself to that like one ayah at a time mentality.
Yeah.
Just focus on this one. You know, swipe up. Maybe if you're done for the day, no problem. But it was just a tiny bit of information, and that's not as bad. And so that's where we started. We didn't start with gamification. We didn't start with any of that stuff. It's like we first, our foundation was gonna be a Quran reader that like people enjoy coming back to, and like enjoy the UX and are satisfied using it. And so alhamdulillah, I think a lot of the feedback in our test flight has been pretty positive in that regard. And you know, I'm happy to hear your son uh and yourself found the same. And you know, like I've spoken to my mom, for instance. My mom works at an Islamic school, and like seeing those types of opportunities to like, bring it into the classroom for students. Because I feel like, yeah, I'll pause here actually, but yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It does. Okay, we can get into that because that's quite interesting. I just wanted to say when I was doing a previous app a few years ago, it was with one ayah um, per page. That was Muslim moons and around the time of TikTok. And I'm trying to get the app to work in a similar fashion you've got it, where you can swipe up. But man, it was a struggle trying to code that. It's fine when the verse is only when it's less than the page, but
Yeah.
once it's longer, then you basically have to code it so it scrolls first. And then I ended up giving up and just sticking to more of a Snapchat story style where you tap right or tap left.
It's actually funny you say that, honestly, and I'll be fully candid here. Is like that's actually one of the current veins of my existence is that UX. I'm actually actively, I can look as I'm speaking to you. I see the engineering group chat.
Yeah.
Um, it's going crazy right now because we had just attempted to fix some bugs with that.
Okay.
It works like I'd say 95% of the time, but there are some edge cases. Sometimes the internal scroll doesn't work, and so
Okay.
actually I went out and I was like, this weekend I'm gonna try to fix it once and for all. And I thought I had the fix, and now they're complaining about it right now.
Okay.
Understandably so. So it's been a back and forth and a
It's
struggle with
hard.
this UX. It's very difficult. It's very deceivingly simple seeming. And it's actually really funny that you say that now, subhanAllah, that we're not the only ones that have struggled with this. It's like basically like all documentation, all the internet is like, please don't make this UX. It's not meant
Yeah.
to happen. It's not meant to be built.
Yeah.
And then here we are still trying to make it. But I'm optimistic. Inshallah, we'll be able to solve it.
Any bystander would be like, you know, this is a 2-minute job. It's
Try,
what
yeah.
like the whole world is used to this behavior, swiping up, swiping down. So it makes sense to cater for what people, the UX they're used to. So before you launch, what other improvements do you have planned for the core part of the product?
Yeah, with quite a bit, inshallah. So one being page view. So I know I kind of like I wouldn't say I bagged on it. I mean, the Mus'haf view is the Mus'haf view. It's beautiful, but we did find like through feedback is that there's people who really enjoy a lot of aspects of the app, but when it comes to the reading experience, they felt like they were compromising because they preferred the page layout for one reason or another. Like there's a lot of good reasons. One being like, they grew up memorizing with the page view. So it's actually easier on them kind of in a photographic way to consume the page view. Other reasons are like they're just used to the layout, other like there's many, many reasons for page layout that people like. People like reading by the page, even though
Mm.
we have page numbers in the other readers. So we actually introduced a page view and we're gonna release it in the upcoming weeks, inshallah. And it still aligns with our goals essentially because it leads into the second big feature we're gonna come a release with the app release is the daily reading goal. Coming into the app, you'll be able to set, it's very simple. You'll be able to set the amount of minutes you want to read a day. So no matter what reader you're in, whether it's Aya, the standard view, or page view, you can just set the amount of time and you say, okay, I want to read 3 minutes a day. All right, you pop into the reader, say that day you haven't done your reading goal. You see at the top, there's a little button that says start my reading goal. You click it.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you like a little Duolingo progress bar, little celebrations and stuff. And you get a little hasanat counter as you go and scroll through the ayahs. You get a little haptic feedback and little celebrations that celebrate like the mini wins. Yeah, 3 minutes are up. Close, you're done. You get you see a summary of the hasanat you got during your session. You see the amount of your total reading time go up, your coverage of the Quran go up, and your streak. You get a streak, and we're very generous with our streak freezes. We said, you know what, 2 streak freezes a week, and just like a job, do it 5 days a week, and you're chilling. You keep your streak. We're trying to keep it like very like low stress. Just come in, do
Yeah.
just a tiny bit, and inshallah you're good. That's
The streak
that's
is stressful. The streak can be stressful. So many
absolutely.
of my users would start emailing if there was a bug and they lost the streak, especially if you've racked up 200 to 300 and then suddenly you lose it. But you're right that there is a lot of pressure there because what if you're then reading for the streak, but not for Allah?
Yes. Yeah, I mean I mean, so our designer, she's fantastic, Kotha. She worked in UX design at Microsoft for education. And so they actually like they dig pretty deep and do like, look into the research and studies on these types of things like streaks themselves. And so we used a lot of that research she read and stuff to try to create a balance between, being too harsh and to the point where the people are like streak averse, and also being too nice to the point where
Yeah.
people are like, well, now the streak isn't as valuable because it's too easy to get, or like it's like easy to buy your way there.
Yeah.
For instance, like in Duolingo, you can always buy streak freezes, something like that. Now the streak doesn't feel as valuable to keep. So there's a balance there. Like the streak itself isn't a perfect thing. You can swing one way or the other too much. So we're gonna try this. It's a little bit novel in a sense where like the way we're doing it is a little weird, different, but we'll see how it goes and we'll tweak it as the feedback comes in, inshallah.
I think
But
that's right, because you can get into the trap, which definitely I was in, where you think, what's the best app out there for learning and retention? It's probably Duolingo. Okay,
yeah,
so Duolingo's the best. Let's just copy that. But then their pure like purpose is just money and making sure their users come back. There's no other element to it. Whereas really it's more than that. It's about the deen, Allah.
absolutely. Yeah, we want to try to align with people's motives and stuff,
Mm.
and try to align with better motives, obviously, than money. I mean, there's no money involved in this app, so we kind of like didn't feel the need to like change the UX or do anything for that purpose. So one thing though is that like we see the greater goal, right, of Yom, which obviously means day, is to just get you engaging in the Quran every day. And
Okay.
so the foundation for engaging in the Quran, we believe, is reading. So that's where the daily reading goal comes in, right? Is like as long as you're like when you read the Quran just a tiny bit, there's so much you can do with that. You can choose your own adventure after. And that's where the last couple bits of the release come into play. So, there's two things we want to surface after your reading is done. One is like, again, I spoke about it earlier, but like we show you like a tafsir takeaway or a gem from the tafsir and a reflection question based off that, based off the tafsir and based off the verse you just read that you can journal about or just think about. And to me, I've been experimenting with it quite a bit. And I feel like it will be a really cool way to, even those days where you feel like you're just mindlessly reading or you didn't really read the translation and you don't know Arabic really well, you'll be able to at least take like one thing away if you just read that. Or something, even if you don't even read the tafsir takeaway, even just reading the reflection question. I myself been reading, obviously vetting these questions, and they've got me reflecting about a lot of things in my life. So that is one cool way to kind of like amplify or like make the reading experience a little more, you take something more away from it every day, a little bite size. And then the other activity you can do is the vocab blitz, call it. We'll try to find a different name. But the idea is that like you're gonna teach the vocab in the context you read it. Again, these are optional, like choose your own adventure after you've done the foundation of reading. And the vocab blitz is like basically we analyze the verses you just read and we test you on like the top frequent Quranic vocab that was shown in the verses you just read. Yeah, so we try to teach the vocab, especially the most frequent vocab, in a way that's natural. It leverages what you just read. You can see the context and stuff like that. So those are the big things that we wanna release, inshallah.
The more I'm talking with you, the more it's I want to use it now.
Alhamdulillah. That's good to hear.
Yeah, that's it's basically a complete experience where you're reading the Quran. So you don't need all of these separate apps. Maybe you do if you want to go super detailed, but you're right.
Yeah.
While you're reading the Quran, why not teach a bit of vocab, make them do the bit of the journaling, asking the questions and reflecting? Because right now that's across many different apps.
Mhm.
There is some Quran journaling website, I think that's out there.
QuranReflect.com or
Yeah, that's it.
something like that.
If you're bringing it all together in a nice UX, that's quite good.
Yeah, I always again viewed the reading part as like the foundation to do a
Yeah.
lot of stuff, like I told you. But I didn't see them as like as disjoint as it might
Mm.
seem. Like I didn't feel the need. I firmly believe there was, and this is what the first Yawm prototype was. There is a way to string the three activities together: reading, vocab, and journaling. Again, the journaling and the vocab are optional. Again, they're like choose your own adventure because like different people like to do different styles of engagement. But it's just different ways to kind of like really kind of tie that reading experience and make it a lot more sticky. People, I feel like sometimes will believe that like, and I guess there's some fairness to it that like just reading it, especially if you don't understand the Arabic, might feel like a more surface level activity. They're not engaging with it as much as they wish, or it's not as sticky. Like, okay, sure, I read it, but I can read any day. But when you tie in something like reflection or you tie in something like vocab learning, now you're getting a very in context activity that enriches the reading a lot, which which makes it a lot more stickier and it feel more beneficial in that sense.
It sounds more true to the Quran as well than just
Yeah.
reading without thinking.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Exactly that.
Earlier you said so you started off with the ayahs and you made the font quite big so that it's easy for people to come on and not feel overwhelmed. But then you've spoken to other users who want the full page view. Do you not think that would distract your core audience by catering
Yeah.
for these others?
Yeah. It's a great question, and a lot of times I look back and I'm like, is this like, am I like falling into scope creep?
Mhm.
But I think the thing that matters here is the original mission and the original goal that we tie back to, right? Is like, are we an app that is like meant is solely revolving around a simple UX? Oh, maybe that's
Mhm.
part of like the that helps us kind of tap into an audience that isn't as acquainted with the Quran, but it actually isn't our main goal. It's just to get like the average busy Muslim who, a lot of them, are grew up on the page view, is to get them in the Quran engaging every day, reading every day. So if that's what people feel most comfortable with, so be it. But we did find like now this is kind of like we carved a little new space with that new reader. Is like we
Mhm.
found that we can attract a different audience now because the barrier to entry in terms of the UX is a lot lower. Again, staying true to our mission, staying true to our goals, and just listening to user feedback, I think is the way I rationalize it. Is like, hey, this is what the users wanted. A lot of people enjoy other aspects of the app in terms of the audio, the way we do the audio UX, the way we do navigation, AI search, a verse search. A lot of stuff is a lot intuitive. The progress tracking is very intuitive in our app. Alhamdulillah. Um, all these other things that surround this the viewer, they like that so much that they're willing to come to this app if it just takes that page view to come in, and we can give them the benefits of the other stuff.
Okay. Just before I forget, just some feedback on the app. Um,
Yeah.
when I pressed play just to listen to the audio, I was presented with that modal with all the different options, and that I felt overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Maybe I think I was busy doing something, and so I just swiped down and I didn't continue. That's just a side point there.
The problem that we have is that we might have given too many options in the UX. So one thing is like you can hold down and do a quick play, and that's probably what we
Oh,
should be
okay.
servicing with the play button. But the problem was it became a problem where people wanted to do verse repeat, range repeat, set the range, and
Mm.
stuff like that. And something like that is really hard to know ahead of time. But like what you just told me right now is feedback that if it's feedback, right? And so like
Yes.
now it's the type of thing where I would go and I'll pull the group chats. We have beta testing group chats and see how they
Mhm.
feel. I'll go talk to the designer and like it's like every little piece of feedback. Sometimes I fear I over index on it, but a lot of
Okay.
times like if I can see validity in it, which obviously I saw in
Yeah.
your feedback, I take it very seriously because I mean that's how we improve the app, right? And that's how we make it a better experience for everyone.
Makes sense because people have different listening habits. For you, it's to decide who's speaking louder or how many voices are on each side to determine which one is which, the long press or the quick one. So once the app is launched, do you have plans to make it easy for people to give feedback?
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's definitely missing from the current version of the app is a feedback mechanism in app. Like right now, as it stands, the way we currently get feedback is that like I tried to keep the test flight circle self-contained in a sense where like
Mhm.
anyone that's in this test flight, I try to get in a WhatsApp group chat.
Okay.
And I have separate group chats for different demographics. Like, for instance, like I have one for like people in Chicago, one for people in Arizona, and stuff, so on and so forth. People in my Seattle community here, there's like women's only ones, for instance, that like I had some sisters set up and stuff like that. So I found that I've tried to, we've done a really good job essentially of like, I think like we have like 80, 70% coverage of the people who have the Test Flight app are in one of those group chats. And
Okay.
that's really helpful for doing polls, for keeping a close connection and a closed feedback loop with them. And it's been super beneficial. But like you said, like when the app releases, then there's inshallah, if it goes viral or whatever and it has a lot more users, we won't be able to sustain this. And I think the idea is to, integrate feedback within the app, thumbs
Mhm.
down, type it up, submit the feedback, stuff like that.
Everything you've mentioned is like you're a well-funded VC startup. You're ticking all the boxes, doing the user stories, setting up these community group chats, getting the feedback. Can you just tell me again about your background, like your profession and any other learnings you've done?
Yeah. So I'm a software engineer. Been a
Yeah.
software engineer now for 3-ish years now. It's been a good journey in terms of learning and stuff like that. I've learned quite a bit. I'm surrounded by a lot of the people in big tech here in Seattle. It's a hub. And so again, like going back, like it helped me meet a lot of people in a similar sphere. But yeah, I think like the product space always interests me. I work on a product team. So like I always wanted to like I love like building, talking to users, interviewing them. It's always something that interested me. And you know, we're not well funded, but or we have no funding. We're
Okay.
self-funded, alhamdulillah. We didn't want to go like, there's a lot of hype around like, startups and doing startups. Like, we don't really like, we're a company, we're an official company, obviously, but we don't view ourselves like one of these like SF type of startups. We're
Hmm.
like, we were just like, you know what? Like, we're getting together. Let's just create something. Let's create value. Let's create value for our ummah. And, we don't need a label or anything. We don't need to take money off people. Alhamdulillah, we've been blessed with like decent paying jobs. As long as we can sustain it without, money and outside influence, let's do it. Let's be mission driven. And that's alhamdulillah what we've been doing. So yeah, a lot of learning curve, a lot of learning. There's like quite a bit of learning curve, right? I've never been like a founder of something, CEO, whatever you want to call it. I don't really view myself like that. But and there's quite a bit of responsibility and a lot of hats you wear and stuff like that. But I'm all down for it. It's all like anywhere I fall short is a learning opportunity, and alhamdulillah, I've learned a lot of learning opportunities to say the least.
At some point, there'll be a point, I feel, where you want to grow this exponentially, or you see that, your team can, create maybe alternative products in different spaces. At what point do you think you will need money?
It's tough to say. I think that like so. I grew up very like blessed, alhamdulillah, but also very resourceful,
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of those skills have very much translated.
Hmm.
In terms of like negotiating, compromising with people, and trying to keep costs low. And alhamdulillah, like I've managed to get us quite very far with keeping costs relatively low. But you're right, like eventually if this like scales quite a bit, it would ideally not take a bite out of our pocket. I think that like one is like self-funding it with the money. If the app ever makes money, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
Like it could be like a feedback into itself. I think the other route I've been actually interested in doing um is like a donation style way where people can donate if they're like aligned,
Mm.
they like the mission, and that's one way. Honestly, that'd be like the preferred way. I like that idea. And the other option, I think, like one message. One of the contractors I was working with, in Chicago, mentioned a message that was like willing to fund projects. Like it's not
Okay.
like an equity type of thing, but like they're willing to like fund these Islamic projects. And so, like, I mean, if it's coming from a masjid, I'd be a lot more. I mean,
Yeah.
if it wasn't like a problematic masjid, which like 99.9% aren't, or sorry, 99.9% aren't problematic. Yeah, I'd be happy to take that if it's like if they see the good that it's doing and it's coming from a good place. And I just worry about like when I take money, like one is like, taking on debt, if you will, not obviously not interest, but like taking on any debt is not ideal. The other part is like giving up equity for
Hmm.
influence. So it's like I'm not trying to be like a tyrant. Like equity isn't the reason I'm not trying to shell it out or take money, but it's actually influence that you bring in when you take in money. If you take in an investor that has certain strong opinions, and once you take their money on, then their opinions have come. They have like it's like a cloud hanging over you in a sense. Like
Yeah.
no, like I would love the team we have. I love the people on it. And I think they're like, I don't want us to like ruin get our vibe ruined, if you will. and our mission ever tainted by outside influence.
Okay, but so you're open to monetization of the app?
I think monetization of the app, but not in its current form, is what I've probably what I've most likely concluded. I was like, I don't want to like the reading experience, like the things people like about it right now, even the stuff I described to you right now. I really there's no plans right now to monetize that. Obviously, there's costs with if we use AI and stuff. There's obviously inherent costs, which that's something I'm like trying to grapple with. But like models are getting cheaper, so maybe it's not a big deal. But there is like a future where like we can continue like with creating like our Duolingo style lessons, or like I don't know, we can bring some feature in that like aligns with our mission that might be like extra, and
Yeah.
maybe that costs money, or again going back to the donation, there's a donation style monetization where like people can be like recurring donors. Obviously that probably doesn't do as well. There's another model I've seen with Quranly and Kalam where you can like it's paid upfront, but people can bypass it by saying they can't afford it. uh
Kalam, Kalam recently sent an email, I believe, that
yes.
they're now switching over from the donation model because it's quite hard to keep the donations flowing.
Yeah, I think so. Kalam, like, mad respect to them, mad respect to Quranly. Like, I only got respect for people, building stuff for this and the Ummah and helping them out. It's helped a lot of people. There is like, I have like, I have my reservations about that style of monetization as well. I like just the fact that I like the fact that they let people bypass it when they can't
Yeah.
afford it. That's amazing. That's awesome. Like there's no doubt about it. But like it's the idea of paywalling it up front for the people who can't afford it. Maybe that's too much of friction that like there's people we're losing out on, for instance, that could be benefiting. But again, I'm not like commenting on them. I think what they're doing is great. Like I have problems with essentially every model of
Yeah.
monetization. So it's gonna be like a trade-off, or I don't know. I genuinely, people ask me this all the time.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I'm keeping it free until the time comes, essentially. Inshallah.
The reason why I asked is because you've mentioned a few times that even if this app fails, one of the greatest things is that you've been able to employ Muslims. So I think it's definitely important for you to try and monetize it so that you can employ more Muslims and help the Ummah. Because I know a lot of people are afraid to monetize Quran apps.
Mm.
It can be problematic, but there are ways to do it, and you just have to have the courage to do it in the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's like you said, it's possible. It's a challenge. I think the number one thing though is like for me, and why I say like it's kind of like a figure it out when I get there type of thing is like I need to first validate uh that people want to use the app.
Yeah.
And if it's like, and this is the classic like startup thing, like make everything dirt cheap or free, and then like see how many users you can get,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then monetize. I don't want to like necessarily like scale this up, get a bunch of users, and then be like, okay, sorry guys, paywall. No, that's not my goal. But in essence, like, or to sum it up, is like I just want to see people using the app, and then we can figure it out from there.
Let's go back to the school aspect then, what you started mentioning.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the big opportunities for something like this. Actually, I'll take a step back. I
Okay.
think I always had the vision where like I would have loved an app like this when I was in school. Is what my thinking, right? Like if I had an app that was like more fun way to approach the Quran, a less intimidating way, a way to see the word by word translation easily and transliteration to assist me, like all these things gamified, like a reading goal, a little streak to not kind of make things a little more fun, in a respectful way, of course. I would love to have that in my school because it would have been like, oh, okay, I'll do my homework. My teacher just assigned me, hey, just do your streak for the week or whatever, get 5 of the 7 days, and like you're good. And I'm like, oh, I'm happy to do it. It's a little fun. I feel accomplished. So it's like, oh, and the vocab stuff, right? Like, oh, learning the Quranic vocab. If I had this in school, like if I started this way back when, and every day I did a little bit of reading, and I took the top frequent words with that and learned the vocab, man, like I feel like I would have been so much more ahead in a fun way too, in a little bite-sized way. It was like that like 5 minutes of practice every day could have made such a difference. So all that said, I was like, man, like my mom, just for context, she's like a vice principal of an Islamic school, like a full-time Islamic school. So I was like talking to her and I realized like, wow, like we could definitely pilot this and try it out and see how it does. And obviously it's my mom, so she was very supportive, alhamdulillah, about getting this in schools and, in the school and trying it out and like as like an aid to to the students' education. And I was like, man, if we can make this app like cool, so to speak, like cool and fun and like even outside the classroom, when we bring it into the classroom, kids are going to be so excited. Like, imagine if your teacher, if you were in school, a grade school, and your teacher told you, hey, you're going to use Duolingo as your homework. Oh my God, that's way more exciting
Amazing.
than just doing the paper pencil homework. That was my idea. I was like, what if we made this app really cool for the public? You know, it's like gets that Tortilla style aura, if you will. And then all of a sudden you bring the app into the classroom, and then students are a lot more um willing to engage with it and excited to use it. And that's how education should be, right? Like it should be fun. And so I thought maybe it was just like, something we could do with my mom's school. But actually, when I did my user interviews, sorry, not user interviews, I actually just did interviews with different people like that worked at Islamic institutions, or that imams and stuff like that give halaqas and stuff like that, or teach Sunday school. And I found that like actually one common theme and in all those meetings is they were like, when is this app coming out? I would love to implement this in my class as like an aid. And I was like, oh yeah, like that sounds amazing. Like it sounds like this actually has the place in like the classroom. So it's like now we're a B2C customer type of business, but then we can be also like a B2E, like business to education type of thing as well. So that's sometimes I think about that type of play in terms of growing the app. And I think it could be really beneficial. We still don't see apps used that much in Islamic education, like in the schools themselves or in Islamic schools. And I think this is a really good opportunity for us.
Yeah, that's even for the school, it's so beneficial to get all of the feedback from the app of, if you're able to tell if the children are struggling with certain ayahs, or
Oh yeah,
there's so many cool things you could do there with the data to help the children.
absolutely. Yeah.
So let's say if I'm reading the Quran and I'm getting the tajweed wrong, I guess that's a whole other ball game, like to develop that. But is that in your vision?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that because okay, so you asked me about the page view earlier, right? And whether or
Yeah.
not that is like scope creep. And so the way again, it's like first principles thinking, like, or sorry, maybe it's principled thinking, right? I want to say like, does it check my checklist? Like, is it aligned with our mission? And yeah, essentially that. Does it align with our mission? And something like the page view, again, I'd argue does because it helps facilitate the daily engagement and reading of the Quran. To me, the AI recitation comes out of scope of that. To me, like, yes, you could come in and engage with the Quran every day with AI recitation. That's fair. That's a fair argument. But to me, that's like, it's a whole separate sphere than reading and learning the Quran, if you will. Um, if I were to like actually like give you a more clear, concise way of our like mission, it's reading and engaging with Quran, specifically like reading in terms of like meaning, like like extracting meaning out of it and stuff like that. And recitation and AI assisted memorization and recitation is to me is very valuable, but like it's not something I see as part of like that like reading and really like learning and reflecting on the text, if you will. And honestly, one of the other things is like something like I looked at the apps that existed, right? Because I get this feature request all the time. And I think one of my most candid answers is like, I don't think that we're gonna provide any more value over Tertil, to be honest. Like in terms of AI recitation, like Tertil, what they do is state of the art, to put it frankly. And I don't think like our resources and our effort could bring that much more of a value add to people trying to do AI recitation than Tertil, if that makes sense.
Yeah, those guys are geniuses.
Yeah, yeah.
I met them 2 years ago in Istanbul with my son for a little trip. They're super technical, super like
Yeah.
optimization, everything. That's really amazing.
Yeah, I had the pleasure to meet them as well. Again, one of the cool benefits of working on this app, alhamdulillah, is like I met again really cool people, and them being some of them, and super nice too, super humble, mashallah. Such a pleasure to meet with, and they've done such good, like them releasing the Qul project. I mean, that's one of the reasons Yawm exists, right? Is like we have vetted good data for the text because of them. In the project they did. Yeah, shout out to them. Like such an amazing group of people and body of work that they have.
Okay, and so what's your launch plans again?
Yeah, inshallah, with those list of features, incrementally we'll be releasing them in these upcoming weeks to our test flight, to try to get some level of feedback before the release. And inshallah, the goal is February like first-ish, couple
Mhm.
weeks before Ramadan, to release the app to the App Store, inshallah. And marketing it is gonna start, inshallah, pretty early. The idea is that I'll start making content in the next week or so. I'll start like a TikTok account, try to promote it, and then I'll have like do some like influencer led marketing as well, like in the sense of like not just hiring whoever to do a promotion of the app, but like people who I believe I've been for like 4 or 5 months now, taking down names of people on TikTok that I think are a good fit with our
Okay.
mission and align with our values, and reaching out to them. I already have some, inshallah, that we'll be working with, and so yeah, that'll be the kind of high level of the launch plan.
That will work, inshallah. And it's Ramadan coming, so
Yeah,
people's appetite grows so much for Quran apps. It's yeah,
that's the
it's the
idea.
best time to launch.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of pressure right now, especially just trying to get in. And we have it's about a month and a half now, and until then, and yeah, the Ramadan launch is big, as you can imagine. Like,
Mm.
yeah, that's prime time. If things go south, so what? It is a missed opportunity, but like my thinking is like, we'll probably release what we do have by that point. Inshallah, it will be like still pretty good. But my thinking was like also like, what if we miss the mark? What if we don't release by then, and like because everything like blows up on our face? Well, then if we can't prove that this app can sustain or have an audience outside of Ramadan, did we really succeed? Was my thinking. I'm like, because again, this is the app made for building a habit, and habits exist outside of Ramadan. It's only one of 12 months. So part of me is like, I don't want our launch plan to fail, but part of me is like, what if it does? Maybe it's a really good test to see, how valuable this app can really stand on its 2 feet outside of Ramadan. But yeah,
Yeah, so when I launched Quran 2 or 3 years ago, it was based off of Wordle, if you remember that.
yep, absolutely.
That was literally a few weeks before Ramadan when I launched it, and I just started posting on Twitter about it and commenting.
Yeah.
And there was one guy who like retweeted it. His name was Sadiq Dorisat, who had followers, maybe a few thousand. And then from that, it just went. In my eyes, it was viral. It was thousands, like
Oh
all at the
wow.
same time. I was just looking at Google Analytics. I remember seeing the hotspots growing bigger and like how it was spreading to different parts of the world.
Wow.
That feeling was amazing. But you're right. But then after Ramadan, it just shot down. The usage shot down, and it was very hard to keep that retention. And so that's why I brought in the app, which, alhamdulillah, it was hitting those numbers of product market fit in terms of retention, but it wasn't growing, and it still isn't growing. People come back, but they're not sharing it with others. I think that's one of the core problems. So I did try to market it, but just busy with work, family, and I guess I never formed a proper team. If I had a team, that could have helped me because it was always just by myself. And also,
Yeah.
you have the accountability factor when you're working in a team, where if you get lazy one day, it's harder to be lazy.
Yes, yeah. A team definitely helps. Especially with the accountability part. You have each other's like when you're not feeling good or you're feeling a little down about things, you know,
Yeah.
having that being like someone relying on you kind of really helps motivate you as well.
Okay, cool. So it's very nice speaking to you. Thank you again for your time. Are
You
you,
as
are you off
well.
to work now, or you're going to sleep?
Uh, well, it's 10:45 over here. It's actually in 15 minutes. I have class actually. I have Arabic class with my
Oh,
teacher in
no.
Lebanon. Yeah.
Mashallah. All right. Nice speaking with you.
All right. Nice speaking with you as well. Thank you so much, Thought for the opportunity. And yeah, again, it's a great, great, great talk. Thanks for
You
everything.
too.
Jazakallah.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Bye.
To download Yasser's app, go to getyawm.com. That's GETYAWM.com. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this video and if you recommend anyone I should speak to next.